Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial for my warm and inviting, comforting arrangement of the hymn Day by Day. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over any potential trouble spots, offer some tips for overcoming those, as well as some insight into my thinking as the arranger. Right from the top, if you are familiar with my recording of this song from the album Hymns of Comfort that I recorded several years ago, you might notice some discrepancies between very small ones between the sheet music and what's recorded. And the reason for that is that I recorded a long time ago and it was actually an improvisation. And I had no intention of making sheet music available for it at the time, but it's done so well on streaming and I've gotten some requests. So I've transcribed it into sheet music, and while doing so, I thought there were little tiny things that I could do to make the arrangement stronger and easier for you who's reading the sheet music to perform it, because as would be the case with any pianist, when you're improvising, you kind of have your own quirks and your own personality that may not be as universally normalized. And so to just kind of get rid of that and make it a little bit more friendly arrangement to the average pianist, made those small tweaks. And I also, I developed that little melody line. And so I kind of solidified that a little bit more and made it a little bit more intentional. So I think that the sheet music that you purchased and that you're reading from and all of that is actually a stronger arrangement and a better one than the one that's on the original recording. So if you do notice that discrepancy, don't be alarmed. That's why. And I hope you will agree that this is the stronger version. Okay, so I'm just going to go in order here through the song. It's really not a difficult arrangement. Because it was an improvisation, it is very natural and intuitive, so I don't think there's a lot I need to go over. My encouragement to you, and you may have noticed in my recording, is that I played it very expressively, and I would encourage you to do the same. I give a direction here at the beginning to play with feeling. And so what I mean by that is just sing it in your head as you play it. Let yourself play it as if you were singing it. That's how I performed it when I recorded it. And so that's going to lend itself to some ebbing and flowing in the tempo and the dynamics. And you'll notice that in my recording, I do some of that. Even in the course of just a couple lines of lyrics, I might really swell and dip down in dynamics and tempo. And so let that, feel the freedom to do that yourself as you play. Of course, you could just play it straight as written, and I think it would sound really nice too. I'm going to actually hop to the second page and very briefly draw your attention to the third line, measure 26. This is the beginning of the second verse. You start to have these arpeggios in the left hand that don't break. It's just steady eighth notes that go right into the next measure. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. And if you're not used to playing that, then you're going to probably want to think through the fingering so that you don't find yourself getting to a spot in the arpeggio where you've run out of fingers and now you're having to figure out, you're having to do the math in real time of what the note is, where my fingers are at, where that note is at, and how I'm going to get there with my fingers being in the wrong spot, while also having to remember what the right hand is doing. So it might take a little bit of forethought to think how you want to play that fingering wise, or you might be advanced enough of a pianist and played those kinds of figures enough that you don't need to do that. But then on the third page at measure 33, we have a run of sixths. And I've always thought of a run of six as one of the hardest things in the world to play. Or I should say it's one of the hardest things in the world to play smoothly. Anybody can just, do that. Just kind of hop around. Just put your hand in that shape of a six and hop around. But in order to play it smoothly, and what's the term? The way to really test whether you can play it smoothly is to not use the pedal and see if you can get it to be smooth. So one trick that my piano teacher taught me growing up is that you can't always, in a run of sixth, play from one note to the next with consecutive fingers. Sometimes you're going to have a thumb do one of these things, or a first finger or a second finger do one of those things. But you want at least one of your fingers, or one side of your hand, or one side of the sixth, to be able to be positioned so that you are playing those notes with consecutive fingers. So the fingering I have in there that I've suggested would enable you to do that. So if you just watch closely, I'll play it as I have it fingered here. And you'll see that at all times in each movement, even though for this first two, the first movement there, even though your thumb is going from the F sharp to the E, you're at the top, your ring finger, your fourth finger, goes to the third finger. And you can at least get a legato sound happening at the top if you can't get it at the bottom. And then the same goes for the rest of the line, really. In fact, the way I play it, the thumb is always at the bottom. So it's really the top of your hand that's going to be accomplishing the legato. So I have a suggested 3-to-1 fingering here, which is a little bit of an acrobatic, like you're crossing your third finger over your fifth. And the reason I have that is because then it sets you up perfectly for the downbeat of measure 34. But you could also just do a fourth finger instead of your third. And then for the downbeat of measure 36, you actually have a legato movement that can happen here. So anyway, something to work on. You might want to do different fingering, but I would just encourage you not to do this. Because even if you hold the pedal down and there's no break in sound there, you can still tell. It still sounds like you're pounding those notes. You just naturally give more energy to each note when you play it like that, when it's your whole wrist that's landing on each note, instead of trying to play it more like an organist who doesn't have the luxury of a pedal. And then, of course, there's another way you could do this. And I saved it. You could just have your left hand play those bottom notes. It just requires your left hand to do some quick movements, but that's also a possibility. And then the last thing is at the very end, I have a marking ad lib, and that just means, it might be scary to see a grouping of 9 notes. That just means play these last 2 measures here however you want, and just let it kind of be expressive. When I played it for the recording, I just made it I'm playing at different octaves so I don't knock my camera stand. And just have fun with it. Play that maybe really fast, and then these 16th notes. In other words, if you were playing this with a metronome, the ad lib marking would you could think of it as, it would be an instruction to turn the metronome off and then play the end here however you see fit. You can play it fast, slow, fast then slow, slow then fast. It doesn't, those are the notes to play. The rhythms don't so much matter. It's up to you. All right, I hope that was helpful. Yep, that's it. Okay, I thought I forgot something. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next tutorial.